Hey everybody, it's Simpson here. I want to share with you some information about the budget. This is part one of a two-part series, and in this presentation we're going to kind of go over just some really basic concepts and show and explain how a municipal budget is really not too much different from your household budget. The next series will be budget part two, which will actually go over where our money goes, and I'll be using the data from the fiscal year budget 17-18 from the town of Waxhaw. So let's get started. Okay, so as I said, a municipal budget is very similar to the budget that you probably have from your household. But instead of beginning in January of every year, a municipal budget starts on a budget cycle, which goes by a fiscal year. And that begins July 1st, and it ends the following year on June 30th. The budget is prepared by the town manager, it's presented at a public meeting or hearing, and it's adopted by the town board. Municipal budgets are governed by North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 159. The statute requires a balanced budget, which means the town's expenses cannot be more than their income or revenue. Now that makes pretty much sense, right? You can't spend more than what you got. But this is a very important concept that I want you to remember later on because it really impacts how us as a town is going to fund the projects and things that we need. The statute also requires the budget be presented to the Town Board of Commissioners no later than June 1st, and it must be adopted by June 30th. The budget concept is pretty simple. We generate revenue or income, and we use that to pay our expenses while we put some away and save it for a rainy day. This slide is a comparison of how we generate income or revenue between a household budget and a municipal or the town of Waxhaw budget. So in a household, income or revenue is mostly generated either from job or some type of employment, maybe some investment earnings, or maybe a few other miscellaneous things. On a municipal budget, such as the town of Waxhaw, the majority of their income or revenue is generated by property tax, and right now that's 36 cents per each $100 of property valuation. They also receive motor vehicle tax, sales tax, permits and fees, as well as investment earnings. Okay, so let's look at the expenses now. So on the left side on our household budget, we have a rent or a mortgage. We pay utilities, vehicle expenses. We put some money away for savings. We pay insurance as well as taxes. On the right-hand side of the municipal or our town of Waxhaw budget, we pay the same expenses under the household category, but I'm not sure if we pay taxes. We also pay salaries for town employees. We also contract services such as the town attorney and garbage disposal. We have money that we pay for capital improvement projects, which would be things such as building of parks, contributing to our portion of grant money for sidewalk projects or the TAP grant. And we also provide services or town services to the residents and community members of Waxhaw. So here is a list of town services that are provided to the Waxhaw community. The first category is safety, and that involves police and community policing, followed by transportation. So that would be the maintenance of roads, sidewalks, paying for streetlights. Yes, we have to pay for the electricity for streetlights. Capital projects, so those would be building of parks, our contribution or our share of the money for sidewalk improvements or major infrastructure improvements. Then we have community development, and that's categories and things as historic preservation, economic development, the Main Street program, implementing smart growth standards, planning and building controls. That's followed by parks and recreation. So this would encompass things such as parks, trails, open spaces, the wonderful community events that we have here in Waxhaw, and citizen engagement. We have a general government fund that we pay. In addition, we have an environmental category, which that encompasses things such as solid waste, yard waste, the recycling every week, leaf disposal in the fall, street tree maintenance, and general town upkeep. This slide is one of the most important slides of the entire presentation, and I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for you to really get an understanding of the concept and what we're trying to explain here, because this really has a huge impact on the financial health of our town. of Waxhaw. So on the residential side, we generate revenue or income based on tax dollars. And so for every residential tax dollar that we bring in, a home or resident receives $1.30 in town services. So we are actually losing 30 cents for every dollar that we're generating because it goes out in town services. Now the town as a whole, if we look at our income, 93% of our revenue is generated from a tax base. So homes and residents are actually really getting more than what they're giving. If we compare that to a commercial tax base, for every tax dollar that we receive, a commercial or business receives only 25 cents in town services. So we actually generate a revenue or a gain of 75 cents per dollar on a commercial tax dollar. We have 7% of revenue is generated from a commercial tax base. So to look at the slide, 93% of our revenue is generated from homes and residential developments, although we're losing 30 cents on every dollar, compared to a commercial development, which only makes up 7% of our revenue, but we actually gain 75 cents because they're not receiving as much in services. This is a great visual representation of what we've been talking about, and you can see 7% of our tax revenues are generated from commercial developments and 93% is generated from residential developments. The problem is residential developments are receiving more in services than what they are providing in taxes. So the question becomes is how do we pay for all the things that we need, such as roadway improvements, sidewalks, parks, and recreation, because at some point in the very near future, the demand for the services are going to outweigh the supply of money or revenue. And remember, we talked about that balanced budget, so we're going to be in a real bind here to figure out how we're really going to go about funding these services without cutting services or raising taxes. So here's the big question. How do we fund what we need without cutting services? Well, one thing is we can use our savings. We can pay as you go. We can always raise taxes, issue bonds, or borrow money through loans. As you can see, the approval of the large residential developments in the mid-2000s have created a heavy reliance on a tax revenue they generate. However, it is costing the town of Waxhaw more to provide them with services. In the near future, Waxhaw will no longer be able to afford or maintain its current level of services without finding a way to decrease the costs, either through tax increases or through decreasing of services. This is one reason why we need balanced growth, which includes commercial development, since they do not demand as much in town services and even generate a little revenue. Some of my opponents are opposed to any development, residential or commercial, but remaining static or stagnant will not help Waxhaw's financial future. If the town cannot generate revenue, then it creates a favorable scenario in which taxes will need to be raised. I understand the need for balanced growth, and I am neither for or against commercial or residential growth, but for assessing each project, its impact on the community, and making an informed decision. I am Ann M. Simpson, and I'm running for Waxhaw Commissioner. Please send me your questions or concerns, as well as any feedback that you have regarding my videos. I want to hear from you. Please vote for Ann M. Simpson on November 7th.